بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. At what point do we understand that this world is not without suffering? What point do I, speak about myself first and foremost, understand that this world is without suffering? And how often does Allah push us to the brink of hopelessness and let us feel that moment when nothing can go right, everything can only go wrong, and we get to the point we start thinking in our heads it's only can get better, but deep down we're actually thinking it's going to get worse. Every time we see what's happening around us, we see it get worse and worse around us. Allah pushes us and tests us right to the limits. The thing is, the solution of all this is with Allah Azza wa Jal. It's always with Him. And never at a point does Allah Azza wa Jal not have the solution. Allah just wants to see how tight your grip is. How long will you hold on to this rope that Allah sends down from the heavens? How long would you hold on to this rope? This rope, when you hear Hablullah, this was actually a physical thing. It wasn't always a term that we use in its figurative sense. There was an actual rope Banu Israel used to have, and they used to hold firmly onto this rope from the heavens and ask for what they want. This is where it began with. That there is a tie that Allah Azza wa Jal, it's not figurative, that I have to hold on to. The nature of this life is to have issues. The nature of this life is to have problem. To have heaps of problems. We have people complain about these problems. And everything that's portrayed on the media makes you fear for your life. And people tend to portray false lives on the same media. Whatever medium that they use, any social media platform, they portray false lives of things that aren't really them because they want to hide what is really happening. The thing is, I must understand that Allah Azza wa Jal has put us in this earth in order to try us. And not only just try us, we're meant to struggle. We're meant to strive. But only slightly. And I'll explain. Firstly, if you remember the story I mentioned yesterday with the blind man who had all these afflictions, which is a lot to have, and still did not see that he was completely afflicted. But we're not even close to that. The majority of the time we are living good days. The majority of the time we are living happy days. So Allah Azza wa Jal does try us. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We are created to strive. We have been created to struggle. However, we have to always have that hope. the hope in a solution. And Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرُونَ. That surely no one despairs in the mercy of Allah except the unbelieving people. Despair, as we know, is the opposite of hope. What despair is, it's being hopeless. Despair is al-qunut, which is being despondent, giving up on Allah Azza wa Jal, cutting off this connection that you have with God. It's the end of the hope in the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. However, Allah Azza wa Jal establishes in the Quran a connection between despair and disbelief. That certainly, or indeed, none despair in the mercy of Allah except the unbelievers. So in other words, you only despair if you have no belief. Because the disbelievers' thoughts and beliefs are all based upon cause and effect. They believe the physical laws govern us all. And whatever falls within these physical laws is so, and this is how things work. They don't believe, when you, for example, when you see a situation like you're in, for example, we've trained hard, a football team says we've trained hard, we've eaten our vitamins, we've had breakfast at the right time, we're going to turn up and we're going to win the game. One good example where things change. There was a team in the 1954 World Cup called the Mighty Magyars. They were Hungary's team that had won 33 consecutive football games, undefeated. And they had to play Germany in the final. And the Germans, in that final, remember it was after World War II, in that final, they said, if it rains, they'll win the game. And lo and behold, and the World Cup's in the middle of summer, it rained on that day, and the Germans won the game. And this Mighty Magyars, had won 34 consecutive, not even drawn, 34 consecutive wins. This Hungary team lost to the Germans in that final 1954 was because of the rain. The rain changed everything, even though they were a much better team. There was no comparison. The rain changed everything. Things happen and everything changes altogether. The disbeliever despairs because he does not believe in God's ability. He does not believe in divine intervention. He does not believe something can happen where Allah intervenes. That Allah Azza wa Jal enters and everything would suddenly stop. Even the example of World War II. People thought the German war machine will engulf not only Europe but the world. And no one ever thought that would come to an end. Allah Azza wa Jal intervened. Allah prevented the Nazi war machine from defeating the Russians. This is where the intervention comes in with Allah Azza wa Jal. The physical laws that exist pertain to us and they have an effect on us. We are bound by the laws of physics. However, Allah is transcendent. What does that mean? It means He transcends everything. It means Allah exceeds these things. Allah is not bound to the laws that we are governed by. And this is essential in your belief. Why should one despair? I always tell people, as a habit, if I get a phone call in the middle of the night, could be in the middle of the night, I get a phone call from someone, like a person that I know that sleeps with the birds. There's people that sleep really early. They call me at 1 a.m. Before I pick up the phone, I say, Tawakkaltu ala Allah. I always say that. It's a habit. Why? I say because Allah, I believe in Amr al-Bada, that Allah can change things. Something went wrong, Allah will change it. I totally believe in this because Allah transcends everything. And then I answer the phone, and then the phone either beeps, no one's there, or it's, some mistaken call. And I say, Alhamdulillah, and I go back to sleep. When you get a phone call like that, or something happens, always say tawakkaltu ala Allah. Because Allah can change anything, no matter what it is that you can see as a problem. So why would a believer despair? First, you need to understand what is it that causes or brings you to despair. Generally, people have some kind of angst. You know, when something's about to come up, say for example, you got a job interview the next day. You know, you have that dream the night before that you woke up late. You know, you have that dream when it comes to Salah Subh. Oh my God, I woke up late. I missed out on Salah, and it's a tragedy. But you always have that dream when you have a job interview, you have something of importance. You know what I mean? Something that you'd consider to be important, you have that dream beforehand. This is angst. It's that fear, this anticipation, this anxiety, this dread, this distress before an event. Generally, anxiety comes from a reaction to fear or a reaction to an expected danger. Like, for example, death. Some people have anxiety from death. They know death is inevitable. They know everyone's going to die, but they're always worried that they're going to die. I don't know if you've ever seen those hypochondriacs. You know, those people that every time a disease comes on the market, they go, all right, I might have it. You know, they need to... You know, I've met people, they're fit as a fiddle, always go see the doctor, need to get a checkup. And you know, the guy could run through a wall, but he needs that checkup because he's always afraid that he might have that latest strand that's come into existence. And there's the issue of war. And if you watch the media, honestly, I think the war was already over. We're going to nuclear war if you watch the news. That's the way that it's built up. So some people have this anxiety. This anxiety when it comes to poverty. This anxiety when it comes to failure in life. That I might be a failure in life. And they get this anxiety and they stress out about it. And sometimes this anxiety can be caused by a known thing. Like for example, if someone has an illness and then they start getting anxious that this illness might start to morph into something bigger or start to bond with something else and I might get sicker, for example, and when it comes to, may Allah keep you aloof, inshallah, Allah prolong your lives, from cancer. If you take a look at, and usually in Arabic they say al-marad al-ba'id, they don't even mention its name. That sometimes the first thing that they do is generally they give you an ultrasound to find out, or whatever they actually do in the process, to find out where it is. Because if it's distributed all over your body, then it becomes pointless to deal with destroying it in a centralized region. However, at this point, when someone has something like this, they start to stress out what's going to happen next. So they get that form of anxiety. And sometimes a person is in fear and they don't know why. They have absolutely no idea why they are in fear. Fear. We are naturally afraid. We are naturally afraid of everything. And also, not only are we naturally afraid of everything, everyone tells us the worst. You never meet someone. I remember when I was young, I never met someone that will tell me, you know, things are going to get better. In the outside world. Generally, only the righteous people would tell me this. But in the outside world, no one tells you, mate, it's going to get worse. You know, in the future, your kids won't be able to get a proper job. You know, they won't be able to afford their own home. And then the whole time you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to die of hunger. There must be a famine around the corner. It's 1929 all over again. You know, that's what you start thinking to yourself when you start hearing all these things that people say. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا. That the insan, in their natural predisposition, they are created anxious. Created in fear. So then they turn to their Lord to lose this fear. And this is why when Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about this, He says, إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. Except those that pray, uphold the prayers. When I say musallin, a lot of people, when you hear about musallin, they're people that uphold the prayer. People that pray. People that pray on time. Not the people that say, oh, I've got something to do, I'll delay the prayer. That's why they've always had problems. Because they always paddle away the prayer to the end of the day. No, I need to do this first. They paddle it away. That's why they're always full of stress and they're disturbed, because they do these kind of things. And mankind of today, the people that live today, are the most anxious and most fearful and the most despondent of all time. Even though we live in the age of technology. Even though we live in an age of abundance. You know, there's a widespread of strands of influenza. And it's so bad that if you go, for example, to get a flu vaccine, you're only getting a vaccination from strands that were there before. Something new's turning up, you're not getting vaccinated against it. We're in the era of HIV and AIDS. We're in the era of the Ebola virus, of SARS, and of the dreaded Zika virus. You're in that era. An era of all the pandemics that exist. We are in the era of potential nuclear wars. I remember when I was still a student, a young child, they used to tell us we had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the world 6 times over. I can only imagine what we have now. Potential nuclear warfare and what's brewing in the Persian Gulf right now. In fact, we are at a time that every single day, year that we're living, down to the right to the last second, every 40 seconds, in fact, somebody commits suicide successfully. When I say commit suicide successfully, it means they actually die. They actually try to kill themselves and they die. Why would I say successfully? Because 1 in every 2 seconds attempts suicide. So 1 in every 2 seconds attempts suicide. Every 40 seconds, someone in the world successfully commits suicide. Taban, if you actually look at the map where the people that commit suicide are generally all the people where there's no problems. Like if you look even in South America, do you know which country has the least amount of suicide in South America? Have a guess. Which country's most focused on in the news right now? Venezuela. Has the least amount of suicide in South America. Have a look at all these countries, but all these advanced countries, well, if you just have a look at their numbers. Allahu Akbar on the numbers that they have when it comes to committing suicide. But how do I cure this? How do I erase this? Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. That when you remember Allah, بِذِكْر Allah, this is when you feel that serenity. This is where you feel that tranquility. This is where you feel that peace at heart. Why? Because it's in Allah's hand. Everything is in Allah's hand. Do you imagine one of the most serene moments when I was reading the Quran, I was reading the tafsir, one of the most unbelievable moments. I've mentioned this moment many a time. So I love it. Every time I think about it, it's amazing. Is when Allah Azza wa Jal sends Musa ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi afdal as-salat wa salam, sends him to Harun, and he sends him to Fir'aun with his brother Harun. Musa and Harun are sent to Fir'aun. And Allah Azza wa Jal says to them, وَلَا تَخَافَا إِنِّي مَعَكُمَا أَسْمَعُ وَأَرَى. Fear not, for I am with both of you, I hear and I see. Imam al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, in a narration says what Allah actually said to them. He said to them, know that Fir'aun does not speak without my permission. He does not breathe without my permission. You think about this. How brave would you be when you're walking, you are carrying the message of God, and Allah says His life is in my hands. Everything is in my hands. You will go and you will return successful. So you walk and you're the size of a mountain as you're walking. Because you know Allah. This is how I should walk in the land. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ, in the verse says, فَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلْ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. The believer relies upon Allah. حَسْبُنَ اللَّهِ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Allah is sufficient. When I have relied on Allah, it suffices. As Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says in part of the narration, he says, "Man u'tiya tawakkul u'tiya al-kifaya." Whoever is given this tawakkul, this reliance upon Allah, has been given what is sufficient, what is enough. He doesn't need anything else, because he says, "Inna Allah azza wa jal yaqul, wa man yatawakkal ala Allah fahuwa hasbuh. Inna Allah balighu amrah. Inna Allah balighu amrah." That whoever relies upon Allah, you must say, fahuwa hasbuh. That means that you are now on God's side. Allah is your kafil. Allah is the one that represents you. He is the one that looks after your affairs. Who else would you want to look after your affairs other than Allah Azza wa Jal? Who else would you turn to other than Allah Azza wa Jal? I need to believe that although I have all the material causes, all the observable and material causes, they are before me, I need the unseen factor to make things happen. I do. Although I can see everything is working the way, I need the unseen factor, Allah Azza wa Jal, to see this happening, to see this working. Because an individual, when they encounter a problem, they automatically think it's the end of the road. That's it, we're finished. No. And this is what happens, even this test was given even to the Anbiya alayhim as-salam. When Yusuf alayhi salam was called in to commit a sin, or else he would be thrown in prison, what did Yusuf say? Yusuf alayhi salam said, "I would prefer prison to committing this sin." The Imam, I think As-Sadiq alayhi salam, says in the narration, Yusuf had a third option he could have used. He didn't have to choose one of the two. He should have said, "I want God to save me from both." Sometimes you may put yourself into a problem. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal. You say, "I don't want this ultimatum that's been given. I don't want this position. I want to choose what Allah Azza wa Jal wants. If I have to go to prison, then so be it." And then generally, like I said, when a problem afflicts them, they are always concerned about what will happen. If you have a blessing and you lose this blessing, generally people lose their minds. They get upset. In the case of Nabi Ayyub, alayhi salam, when he had all, as you know the story, I don't want to go into detail of the story, all these blessings that Allah had given him, and he was to lose them, his wealth, his family, and his health, he never ever at any point objected to this. And the whole time was thankful to Allah Azza wa Jal. He showed his gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal. And then Allah Azza wa Jal showed him good and showed him what was happy for him after this great trial. And Allah Azza wa Jal tests your belief. Allah Azza wa Jal tests your capacity. Because you say, "I believe." And Allah says, "How much do you believe? I will test you to your limits. How much is your belief?" And there are those that believe right to the very end. That for certain, when you discuss the story of the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, sometimes we give lip service. Sometimes if we like a leader, we give flattery. We say, "Barruh bid-dam nafdik, ya fulan." With my soul, my blood, I'll sacrifice for you. Ju'iltu fidaq, I'm at your ransom. May I be held at your ransom. But then you have companions, like the companions of the Imam, that said things and you knew there was sincerity. There was no lip service, because they gave everything. When they said to the Imam that if I was to be killed and burnt and brought back to life, and this was to happen to me over 70 times or whatever the narration says in this matter, that I would never leave you. That they would say things like this. You would know this because Allah Azza wa Jal bears witness to this. Al-Aimma alayhum as-salam bear witness to this when they say, "Alladhina badalu muhajahum duna al-Husayn." They gave everything. They gave their inner heart in the stead of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. This wasn't lip service. There was no flattery here in this case. That these people, they would be tested to their capacity, and they fulfilled this. رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. That these people fulfilled. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. These people fulfilled their oath with Allah. They were truthful with their covenant with Allah to the very end. The believer in the worst of situations will always fill their heart with hope, because they know things can change no matter how hopeless the situation is. We naturally know that water quenches. If I drink Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We naturally know that if we drink water, it quenches the thirst. But we know that when the accursed man, when the Imam made a supplication upon him, that may the water never quench your thirst. You know, the one that Imam Hussein made a dua about. They say he drank and kept saying, I am thirsty. The water would not quench his thirst until he died. We know that naturally fire burns. If you bring fire, you warm yourself with fire. But we know that Allah Azza wa Jal says that when Ibrahim al-Khalil was thrown into the fire with the catapult by Namrud, that fire not only was cool for Ibrahim, it was safe. Ever heard of a fire that is safe for you? A fire that is cool? Allah said, Ya nar kuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. That this fire became cool and this fire became safe upon Ibrahim al-Khalil alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdal salatu wa salam. That this was his position. This fire changes properties. These stories aren't put in the Quran, you know, for no purpose. When Allah Azza wa Jal places these stories for us to read, they're not aimless. They're telling you that there is a way. Never ever think it's over. There is a way. That way is Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is why one should not get to these levels of anxiety. They may exist. They exist within you. We do get anxious. We do have angst. But when we reach this, we need to know that there is that road so we can always pull back. It's within us. We can't help it. It's within the human as that they were predisposed, as I mentioned before. Allah Azza wa Jal has shown us that He can create without a cause. In the case of Isa ibn Maryam, ala nabina wa alihi wa alayhi wa ala ummihi afdal salatu wa salam, that He created him without a father. And the case of Adam, that He created him without a mother or a father. Allah can cause creation through a miracle, and such is the story of Ibrahim and his wife, Sarah, at such an old age. And the verse in the Quran gives you insight into this. The angels came and said, Inna nubashiruka bi ghulamin alim. This was with Ishaq. Because Ishaq was born through a miracle. Isaac, alayhi salam, was born through a miracle. He says to them, قال أبشرتموني على أن مسني الكبر فبما تبشرون. That you've given me these good tidings, these glad tidings, and I'm an old man. Not only is he an old man, he's very old. The narrations, I think, the birth of both of Ismail, I think one narration says he was 98 years old, another says he was 100 and something. But with Ishaq, I know he was in the hundreds, 100%. He was in the hundreds. He was in the early, probably around 110, 115. He was really old. So then the angels say, Basharnak, we have given you these good tidings. Bilhaq fala takun min al-qanitin. We have given you what is right, what is true from Allah. Do not be of those that are despondent. And then the Prophet answers them. to what his question was. He says, قَالَ وَمَنْ يَقْنَتُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّهِ إِلَّا الضَّالُّونَ. That who is despondent, who has given up in the hope of their Lord, except those that have gone astray. I'm beyond that. Just I'm happy with this news that you have given me, but I'm beyond this. I've seen things. I know things. Allah Azza wa Jalla says about Ibrahim in the Quran that He showed him malakut, showed him the realms of the heavens and the earth. You know, not only the mulk, He showed him malakut. Showed him the other bit, the part we don't see, the heavens and the earth. What is unseen to us, Allah showed him. He said, I'm beyond this. No one gives up on the mercy of Allah except those that have gone astray. Likewise with the case of Zakaria alayhi salam. Allah shows. And He shows you the attitude of Zakaria. Something I always tell people when you supplicate. One thing I always ask Allah, I say, I call Allah Azza wa Jalla when I supplicate by the dua of Zakaria. Because you know at the end Zakaria, he says at the point where he says, where he's supplicating, he says, oh Allah, I have never ever seen from you a time where you did not accept my dua. You've always come up good. You've never failed me when I ask you. When you ask Allah, ask by this dua. That you've always come up good. Don't turn me down now. In this month, don't turn me away, oh Allah. Don't leave me when so many people, 1,000, 1 million people every day are freed from the fire of hell. Oh Allah, can I not be one of these people? That on the night of Jum'ah and the day of Jum'ah, 1 million every hour, can I not be one of these? Oh Allah, there are so many in this month, please do not turn me away. And I am asking you, oh Allah, that I am begging you, oh Allah, that I am imploring you, oh Allah, that I'm beseeching you, oh Allah, that I'm turning to you with a contrite heart, wholeheartedly, Ya Allah, do not turn me away, because you are the one, when you read in Dua Abi Hamza al-Thamali, وَأَمَرْتَنَا أَنْ لَا نَرُدَّ سَائِلًا عَنْ أَبْوَابِنَا وَقَدْ جِئْتُكَ سَائِلًا فَلَا تَرُدَّنِي إِلَّا بِقَضَاءِ حَاجَتِي. You ordered us not to turn anyone away from our doors, and we have come to your door. We have come to ask. So do not turn us away until you have fulfilled what we asked for. And this is what we ask for, that our necks are saved from the fire of hell. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم وإلى شفاء المرضى بالأخص شفاء الحج أبو علي الحائري رحمه الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.